As the season starts to wind down, the 79s will race on Canadian soil for one final time. Last week saw chaos at the Circuit Villeneuve. However, this week drivers will face Mosport, an incredibly fast and daunting circuit, one with wild elevation changes that require massive commitment. Oh, and don't forget about one serious doozy of a Moss corner. Maple syrup and poutine is up for grabs as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joey Atterbury, and joining me in the booth today is Reese Gardner. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Deploy, and he is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Let's learn about what makes CTMP one of the fastest tracks in North America with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, or as most fans know it, Mosport. This circuit to the northeast of Toronto is a rarity in the world of racing today. Safety standards and the desire for more overtaking opportunities has caused most tracks to alter their layouts over the years. But Mosport is still exactly the same footprint as it was when it was built in 1961. A mere 11 turns, most of which are high-speed sweepers, are dispersed among 2.5 miles, or just shy of 4 kilometers. The only alterations to the turns have been to the runoff areas, but otherwise the radii, camber, and elevation changes are all untouched. Because cars have continued to get faster through the passage of time, it's made this place a fearsome beast to tackle. Clayton Corner is particularly notorious. The blind crest and steep plunge combined with incredibly high speeds to create a punishing combination. Without many heavy braking zones, passing is often difficult. And other than using the slipstream up the Mario Andretti straight, the only other option is usually Moss Corner. This double apex hairpin is named after Sir Sterling Moss for his suggestion to redesign it after he saw its initial layout. While the plateau-like middle portion and critical exit onto the backstretch certainly give it plenty of character, the heavy compression at the bottom of the hill that causes a frighteningly short braking zone makes this one not for the faint of heart. Formula One, USAC, and IMSA have all taken their turns here, but recently NASCAR has joined the fray by holding a round for the Truck Series. Old school fans can rejoice for the enduring popularity of this bastion of untouched tarmac, but any motorsports enthusiast can't help but smile at the thrill Mosport continues to provide.
Well, Mosport is one of the coolest racetracks, and the Canadian fans love having the race cars go around this place, Reese.
They absolutely do, and so do we here on GSRC. Absolutely love Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, one of the few racetracks in the world that has the exact same layout it opened with all the way back in the 1960s. So it was widened in the 1990s, and Moss Corner, of course, the prime overtaking opportunity on the circuit, along with the run into the S's and White's corner at the end of the lap. 10 turns around this place, and only one of them is one that you'd really call slow.
Yeah, it is an incredibly fast circuit around here, just outside of Toronto and Bowmanville. But let's talk about the championship a little bit. We've got both the F1 and the F2 points driver standings, and right now it is JDS on top. I believe this is without drop rounds, 184 points ahead of Juho Rainer right now. John Olsen just a narrow 11 points behind that second place, sitting in third. Gernot Friesche in fourth. Dylan Freckleton right behind by only 4 points, trying to take away that fourth from Gernot. He's sitting in fifth. Vandenberg in sixth. Jean-Francois Boscus, Danilo Sanfilippo, Pepe Fuentes, and Barry West, the big cat, all involved in this F1 top 10. But we also have the F2 point standings, Reese.
We do indeed. At the top of that is Björn Ackerman with a solid 120-point gap over Rowley Wallbank. Miguel Morland and Kurt Clapper only separated by 3 points for third. There'll likely be a change coming out of this round for that. Also very close between Jana Lehmann and Keith Herner down there for sixth spot, and Jose Conde and Adam Klatska are only separated by 2 points for eighth. So doesn't matter where you look in the top 10 here, it's certainly going to be close, and there's going to be some changes coming out of this one. For the time being, though, the team standings as well are on the cards here. And, well, we've got Fittipaldi on top here. JDS and Jana Lehmann on top by a fair way.
Yeah, and then in second here, we got San Remo Racing. And then I think it kind of closes up there between second, third, fourth, fifth. Also have Team Lotus, Team Ferrari, Team Alfa Romeo all involved in that one, as well as it looks like 12 teams competing in that championship here in 2024 Season 3. But we also have today's today's race details that are be going on. Round number 10 of 12, 32 laps around Mosport here, an open setup. I feel like the cars are going to be a little bit more of a medium to higher downforce setup. We talk about how fast this place is, but it's fast through the corners. No spare car, so if you pick up any damage, you're going to have to live with it. Also, keep in mind the underside of these cars. Some of the curbs are quite tall, and there are big bumps around here. Drive-through penalty at 17 incident points, disqualification at 25 incident points, and Reese, this is a high-speed place in the corners. We've been talking about it already. If you go off track here, you're most likely going to find one of those tire walls.
Yeah, you are. This is an old-school circuit through and through, and it may have a couple of tarmac runoffs now in the real world, but this iRacing scan has the racetrack lined with grass and gravel if you go far enough outside of it. Coming through Moss Corner now here in qualifying, you see just how little margin there is for error. Those concrete barriers coming onto the Mario Andretti straightaway, close at all times. You got Armco to try and save you on the way down the straight. Gernot Fritcher currently 6th in qualifying right now, looking to improve on his lap as he comes into the fearsome last few corners.
A really fast sweeping right-hander, and then you kind of got to slow it up. But this final turn right here, turn number 10, it's actually a little bit tricky through there, and it invites a lot of last lap, last corner dive bombs. So if you're locked in a battle, you got to be careful. And that lap from Gernot slid him up into P2. Got about 45 seconds left, but all of the drivers have actually finished their qualifying. So JDS, your F1 points championship leader, the driver of the number 7, I can tell you is on provisional pole right now. I believe we're just waiting on Pepe Fuentes to really cross the line right now. He's just kind of hanging out on the back straightaway. In fact, you know what he's doing? I'm looking at him right now.
Yeah.
We've got just about 30 seconds left. Do you see what he's doing too? He's doing practice starts.
Yep, very important to get a good run off the line in these cars. Plenty of power from those Ford Cosworth DFV V8s and big, thick rear tires putting them down to the tarmac. So if you can nail the start here, you're already halfway there.
Remember, they are standing starts here with the Lotus 79. So, yeah, props to Pepe right now. This is not something that we typically see. And remember, it's not something that you typically practice. You're out there doing practice laps most of the time, not necessarily practice standing starts. So, with the qualifying order officially set, we have our starting grid. I mentioned it was Jack David Spickett, your pole sitter in that number 7. Gernot Fritcher alongside of him on row number 1 in second place. Pepe Fuentes will start third with JB Mastida in fourth. Victor Rodriguez in 5th with Pauli Partanen in 6th. We'll have to keep an eye on him working through the field. Andrew Petty 7th, Seamus Power 8th, Barry West in 9th, and AJ Roper in 10th.
Starting out of 11th is Jean-Francois Boscus, joined on the 6th row with Dave Reutenbeek, with John Olsen and Jone Zorech in 13th and 14th, Rolly Wallback and Hannah Fetchner 15th and 16th. Togo Hisada, we usually see him in the Lotus 49, starting 17th alongside Jose Conde, Mickey Friesen and Jonathan Stottlemyre, rounding out your top 20. 3 more drivers who didn't set qualifying times in the form of Jason Clapper, Julian Jones and Daniel Repetto. 23 cars taking to the start today. Joey, should be a fun time for all.
A multiple split here in Mosport for the Lotus 79s. We had almost 50 drivers show up today, and I'm taking a look at the weather as the cars are starting to kind of get warmed up, get fastened in right now, and it's actually a pretty nice, cool, calm day. 72-degree ambient air temperature, 96 degrees on the track. Wind a little bit at 13 miles an hour, but I don't think that we're going to see the wind really play a factor here. The downforce levels are going to come all from through the corners. The big, heavy brake zone is down there into Moss Corner, all the way down there at turn number 5. But you're dealing with a ton of elevation change on the way down. I don't think we're going to see that 13 miles an hour really play much of a factor here. We're just waiting on one car, Pauli Parton, and you see him show up right there, that white and blue number 1. The revs are up, just waiting for the lights to go out. And now we patiently are waiting. Green flag from Barney. And holy smokes, look at the launch from the 3rd row. I believe that's Pepe Fuentes moving all the way up. It's JDS still out front. Gernot Frisha in 2nd place. And yeah, Pepe Fuentes took advantage. He was the one practicing the standing start on the qualifying. Now he's looking around the outside of Gernot Frisha. 1 car off, I believe that's Togo Asada already finding the wall.
Big shame for Togo there, but it's a clean start for the rest of the field. Hasada has lost his front right wheel and he's already gone back to the pits. That's race over for him. The car that got the massive jump there was the number 3 of Victor Rodriguez, but he's already under pressure now from Pauli Parton. And look at that big wheel spin on the exit of Moss. Pauli's going to get him.
Oh, he's just showing why he's one of the fastest, and also the first lap, you got to make sure you've got temperature in those tires, not just the brain. So, yeah, Pauli Parton moving by Victor Rodriguez now as we ride on board the front wing, dive it off into turn number 8. It is so fast with the downforce levels in these cars. Commit around turn number 9. Here comes 10 already completing 1 lap here around Mosport, and I can officially say the top 18 cars, there's less than half a second separating each one of them.
Fantastic stuff. Position lost for Rodriguez there. It's JB Maceda that's gotten past him there. Love the retro liveries of these cars. Fantastic stuff to see. Seamus Power now trying up the inside of Rodriguez, but unsuccessful at the 3rd turn of this circuit. It is amazing the speed that these cars carry through these corners. Of course, the Lotus 79 was the first car to really make full use of ground effect aerodynamics. So the car's basically a giant inverted wing, and the faster you go, the more downforce you have. And Pauli Parton finding that out the hard way there as he's chasing down JB Maceda.
Yeah, he's going to get an excellent run going down the Mario Andretti straightaway. Around drivers left he goes. I'm seeing 172, 173 miles an hour before you dive into turn number 8 as Seamus Power is also working. I believe that's Andrew Petty involved. Victor Rodriguez is the yellow car, kind of the camel color car. That's kind of right in front of Seamus Power. He's got that 7-11 livery, and you were talking about how fast these things are. 1:07 lap time is what was just put on the board. 107.9 from our leader, JDS out front. He's gapped it out about 1 second over Gernot Frisha, but man, the dirty air is going to play into effect, and you mentioned the underside, the ground effects on these cars. Remember, this is the old scan of Mosport. This is a bumpy place.
Yeah, certainly is, and so it can be very easy for that aerodynamic balance to be upset through these corners. You've got to be inch perfect in your precision coming across the top of these fast corners at the start of the lap. And through Moss, that's where those very harsh curbs are that you mentioned at the top of the show, Joey, so they need to be very careful to avoid those. This thing basically handles like a giant go-kart with like 5 times the grip of a go-kart, basically. So, you get it wrong, and you're going to find out very quickly how much pain you can endure.
And I think one of the trickiest parts, is Rodriguez slips a little bit wide there through the final quarter. Now defends down this little mini front straightaway, force and power to the outside. But you can't do this. Taking the Darlington line around the outside, move Seamus Power to 6th. And now he firmly has some clean air. Throw up the deuce and say, see you later, Victor Rodriguez. That was a pretty cool move from Seamus.
Love that. That's exactly what you want to see in the Lotus 79. Going a bit faster through the opening corner. He had more speed. There was more downforce acting on his car, more air flowing underneath, and he could get the move done around the outside. Brilliant move from Seamus there. It took a lot of trust from Victor Rodriguez as well for them both to get it done cleanly.
So I don't want to pick on Victor Rodriguez here in this yellow number 3, but he kind of seems to be the cork in the bottle. Sometimes that happens when you're out there, and especially with a drafty track, we run in higher downforce, remember? So it punches this huge hole behind your car. It allows the car behind to just really utilize that slipstream, but because of that, he's already got Andrew Petty right behind, and AJ Roper, who we're riding on board with here in this orange car, he's right behind as well. So there's also Barry West, the big cat, directly behind AJ Roper. So I have a feeling Victor Rodriguez is going to need to kind of collect everything up, maybe just kind of wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, take a deep breath, take a little bit of a mental reset, and then get back going again, because he has fallen down a little bit from his qualifying. We know he's got the speed.
Yeah, it can be very easy to fall out of rhythm in this car. It's one of those cars that, you basically just need to put your trust in the machine, and it will be able to get you through those corners lovely and quickly. If you try and work the car too hard through the corners, you'll pay for it. You'll scrub the front tires, you'll understeer through the corners, you'll ruin your exits. And for the time being, it looks like Victor has managed to get some more pace on. Gernot Fritsch, meanwhile, chasing down JDS for the lead of the race. The gap is closing, but you saw the fastest lap graphic pop up earlier. Pauli Partanen, is very fast at the moment, but Gernot taking the fastest lap back there with a 1:07.0. This is on for the lead.
Don't count out Pepe Fuentes there in the third place position, because he's sneaky fast. He is so close to that slipstream range that he's able to maybe close it in a couple tenths, maybe a quarter of a second. Now all of a sudden that toe will be available down the straightaway, and it just allows that lap time to continue to drop. But you're right, I've been kind of keeping my eye on JDS versus Gernot, and I think that this season is kind of the true emergence of JDS, not only in the points championship, but he's finally running up at the front with authority. He used to be running up there and showed flashes of brilliance with some weird setups. I'm going to say it, some very unorthodox setups, and that's what gave him a lot of speed sometimes. But this season, he's truly shown that he needs to be at the front. He is wanting to be there. He's capable of winning races, as Andrew Petty now works his way around Victor Rodriguez. And so I think JDS, back to my point, I know we're only working lap number 7, but he is going to be a difficult car to pass for the win today.
Yeah, he is. I noticed that Gernot was really rounding him up on the Mario Andretti straightaway. So I think, a lot of very strong slipstreaming combined with maybe a tiny bit less downforce for Gernot, potentially putting JDS in danger of losing the lead for a second there. But everywhere else on the circuit, the number 7 is absolutely flying. And here's Partanen now trying to get into the top 3, and he had to have a couple of goes at the steering on the way into Moss. Very difficult corner, to say the least.
I'm going to get a little bit nerdy about what you were just mentioning, the top speed difference between Prix and JDS, because remember, Gernot's been around for a long time. Pauli Partanen, one of the fastest, most successful in these cars, he knows exactly how to win races. They know how to set up a fast race car. That's going to be a lower downforce. That doesn't mean all the way low on the wing. It just means a lower downforce for this track that allows them the top speed to close it in on the straightaways, to have that opportunity to make a pass going into the brake zones. Now, JDS, on the other hand, he's gone the other way. You heard Reese say that he doesn't have the top end speed. That means he's got the wing cranked into it. He's going to have all the stability in the brake zone. He's going to have all the confidence in the corners, but it puts him vulnerable at the end of the straightaway.
Yeah, you want a proper comparison here. For those of you who live in metric land, I can't give this to you in miles an hour. JDS, 264 kilometers per hour at the end of the straight. Meanwhile, Gernot Fritsch was hitting 278. So that's a huge difference in straight line speed between our top two. But JDS is making it all back up in the fast corners.
So this is a battle right here between JB Masada and Seamus Power. Seamus, remember, we watched him go by Victor Rodriguez a little bit ago. He's put the visor down and actually caught up to 5th place there. So we're going to see if he grabs that top 5 as Pauli Partanen and Pepe Fuentes. This is a tough one. I think that Pauli probably has a little bit more pace than Pepe Fuentes right now, but Pepe's not doing anything wrong, right? It's not like he's just going to pull over and let Pauli by and let him have a podium position. So Pauli has to find a way by, but when you got a car that's consistent, it can be rather difficult.
Yeah, and Pepe has consistency on his side at the moment, I think. There's also the fact that this track is pretty narrow compared to other racetracks around the world. And remember I mentioned at the top of the show, this place used to be a lot narrower. It was widened in the 1990s, and it's still very difficult to make moves here in most places around the circuit. Well, we'll see what Seamus Power can do here as he chases down JB Maceda. Seamus is up 2 spots at the moment. Not the most positions gained in the field. That belongs to Julian Jones down in 17th, up 5 spots. But we're about to see a potential move here between them, and almost a move for Pauli Parton. And he tried on Pepe Fuentes, but Pepe was defensive and held the inside beautifully.
Still Seamus and JB, and then you saw, it's kind of interesting because we got groups of 2. It's almost like they're pacing around the track at their own race pace in little groups of 2 here, with JDS Gernot out front, and then Fuentes and Barton in here, and we also have Maceda and Powers, the next group of 5th and 6th. And I also feel like one of the reasons why these cars are having a difficult time in getting around is it's fast, right? That means the downforce levels are up there. That means the dirty air behind the car is up there. That's what you want in terms of the slipstream and the toe. But when you're behind the car in the corner, it equals dirty air on the front end of your wing. So I wonder if we're seeing cars like Pauli Partonen or Seamus Power really get close, but then struggle to find maybe that last quarter of a second.
Yeah, that is the issue, is have a look at Geno Fritsch. He's going to go for the lead here at the 3rd last corner on JDS, but look at how much more downforce the number 7 has. He's able to defend that position.
Oh man, it is heating up at the front, and they're actually taking off because it is now 1.9 seconds back to Pepe Fuentes. I think that Gernot sees that and he says, you know what, I feel comfortable in making a lunge here at JDS if the opportunity presented itself, which it did down the Mario Andretti straightaway. He had about 2 seconds over that other pair, so why not throw it in there? And they've actually gapped it out even more, now up over 2 seconds to Fuentes in 3rd place. So maybe Frisha not quite close enough going into Moss Corner this time, unless JDS has a little bit of a mistake somewhere, but he'll just kind of keep chipping away at it and wait for that next run down the straight.
Yeah, the issue here for JDS is he knows that he is at a deficit in straight line speed, so he's focusing a lot more on the exit of Moss to try and get that gap over Gernot. But you see him starting to close in here at the end of the straight. Look at the overspeed here. This time JDS leaves the inside open for Gernot, but that doesn't matter. He's got so much more grip through the fast turns, and he's able to defend the lead once again. I think Mr. Fritscher is going to get a little frustrated behind JDS if this keeps going on.
I was very surprised at the closing rate at the end of the straightaway, because I could have sworn that Fritscher was maybe a little bit closer on laps past and didn't get all the way up alongside of him. So this is going to be very, very interesting, because we're only working lap number 12. We're not even halfway through this thing, and 2 completely different downforce levels, and we're just comparing the speed right now. We're not even talking about the tire degradation here in another 15 laps, because that's what's going to win you the race, right? Is it going to be the high downforce setup that doesn't actually abuse the tires because the car is glued to the road? Or is it going to be the low downforce setup because Gernot's actually driving the car a little bit slower through the corners? That means the tire temperature's a little bit cooler. And look at the massive straight line speed here. JDS just a sitting duck on the inside. There goes Gernot Frisha. In fact, I think JDS lifted at the end of the straightaway. I wonder if there may be damage on the underside of that car, because that was drastic closing rate.
Yeah, it was. I think JDS probably recognizing that Gernot is quicker at this point in the race, and maybe he feels better as the chasing car at the moment. Yeah. Gernot getting the fastest lap on the way through there. We're down to a 106.5, and it's only going to get quicker as the fuel burns off.
And that's a great point to explain that, right? Fuel is weight, right? The more you consume that fuel, the lighter the car gets, the faster it can go. And with these cars, the tires don't really fall off. Yes, you can heat them up and kind of abuse them in terms of overheating them. However, the fuel weight burning off kind of equals everything out. And yes, they will get quicker as the race goes on. So here we go. We're flip-flops down the straightaway. JDS is not quite in the slipstream. Now he pulls in the slipstream, but I'm looking at the miles per hour. He's still not faster. he's still 4 mile an hour slower than Gernhoff. This car has damage somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's better than the sort of 7 or 8 mile an hour difference between the two cars that was happening when Gernot was the car chasing. If JDS does have damage, then yeah, it makes sense. But I think I'm taking a different view here. I don't think he has damage. I think he's just aware that he has that straight line speed deficit, and he'd probably be better off chasing Gernot, staying close through the parts of the circuit where he is faster, and then using the slipstream to stay in touch with him for a move later on.
I love having another nerdy racing brain in the commentary booth, because that's perfect, right? He's going to save his stuff, he's going to cool everything down, but still be able to maintain that pace that he had before. So yeah, that is a great pickup over there, Reese. As we check back in on Partonen and Fuentes, the only thing that's different now, the white and blue number 1 of Pauli Partonen has made his way into 3rd place. So we're going to see how fast Pauli is. And if you guys aren't familiar with these 79s, Pauli, as well as his buddy Jukka Tolinen, always used to show up and just mop the floor with everybody. I mean, these guys are crazy fast. I think that they've got plenty of time to hunt down the 2.8 seconds up to JDS and Frisha, our leader, as Frisha sets a purple fast lap. Now let's just watch and see what he's capable of.
Yeah, let's see indeed. He's got some clear air ahead of him. There'll be cleaner airflow over the front wing, but that's a very deep run into the turn there for Pepe. He almost cleaned up the back of Pauli as AJ Roper now stands to be the next car to pass Victor Rodriguez, who's been dropping down the field steadily since the race got going. We're almost at the halfway point of the race now. End of lap 16 will be 50% of the way through here. So Victor, I think, will be happy at least that there's a big gap to the next couple of cars behind in the form of John Olsen and Boskus and Zorich, because then he'll at least stand a chance of staying in the slipstream of Roper and not falling down any further.
I'm going to give some credit to Victor Rodriguez here, because this is not an easy position to be in. We've kind of documented him falling down through the order, and he hasn't made really any mistakes. It's not like he's going off the racetrack. It's not like people are smashing into him. So I do want to give him credit, because it is so difficult to have a car in your mirror every single brake zone, every single corner, knowing that they're putting the pressure on you, knowing that if you mess up one single apex, you're going to give up another position. So it is not easy to have the race that Victor is having right now. Constant pressure. I think he's doing a tremendous job kind of driving within his capability, and he's still hanging on to a top 10. Sure, it may not be where he qualified at, but he's not cracking under the pressure. He's not hitting anybody else. He's racing his pace.
Yeah, and sometimes that can be exactly what you want, because these cars are brutal and it's very easy to make a mistake in them. If you can at least survive the race, that is an achievement in and of itself. We've already lost something around 4 cars from this race at the moment. We only have 19 left running. Hisada was out on the first lap. Clapper, I think, disconnected, and Fechner and Stottlemyre certainly didn't make their way too far in either. Spickett and Fritsche are battling hard over the fastest lap title. Now Spickett is the faster, but only by about 100th of a second over Gernot Fritsche at the moment. The gap still remaining at about a second between our leaders, which is just enough to get a whisper of slipstream.
It's dangerously close, isn't it, right? Because if he loses another few tenths, I'm talking about JDS, our leader, as we're watching the battle for 8th and 9th on our screen, because if Frisha can gap it out another 2 tenths, he's going to break that toe, break that slipstream, and all of a sudden JDS, the benefit that he had of following Frisha and getting pulled along, is now evaporated. And in fact, it's 1.1 seconds at the end of the straightaway. So maybe the only benefit right here is that JDS has another, call it 7 turns, now 6 turns, to use that high downforce setup, maybe close the gap to our leader, as AJ Roper is still stuck behind Victor Rodriguez. I talked about Victor doing a good job not making any mistakes, but let's talk about what's going on inside the head of AJ Roper, because it can get very, very frustrating following a car, not being able to pass them, and all of a sudden, kind of, it can get overwhelming, can't it?
Yeah, if you're trying to make up time through fast corners and you're so close behind another car and you're traveling at such a rate of speed that these cars afford, it can become very difficult for you to hit your marks, and you become frustrated behind the car in front. You're just thinking, God, why can't the gap just open? Why can't I just get through at Moss, for example? Make up some time in the braking zone, yes, as AJ Roper just did, but then through the second half of the corner, despite a slide, it's going to be Rodriguez who comes out with the advantage, and once again, it's all down to the slipstream. It's all down to catching up. See, our leaders have a big difference in downforce, but these guys don't. AJ Roper and Victor Rodriguez running very similar downforce levels here, so Victor has to really dial up the aggression.
Roper's going to try to force something, and I think that Victor, there's a little bit of slip-up coming out of turn 10. This is going to put Roper much closer than he's been laps prior. Is he going to force it in turn 2? Victor covering the inside. He knew he was a little bit slow through 1, but Roper is going to keep the pressure on. He's still only about half a car length back going into turn number 3. Putting the power down here is very tricky. You see Roper get out to the outside of the track maybe just a little bit early, but can a move be done into Moss Corner? It is such a huge compression zone. I do think that Victor is maybe a little bit careful on the brakes going into Moss Corner, but because of that, look at the exit that he gets. That is so important, because at the end of the straightaway is usually your passing opportunity. If you can kind of put him at a stiff arm at the corner exit, it prevents that run down the straightaway.
Yeah, certainly does. Well, Pepe Fuentes, meanwhile, still trying to get this position back from Pauli Parton, and Pepe was the fastest car on track last time by. I saw something interesting in the InSim text chat. I don't know how recent this message is from Jack David Spickett, but he says, "Have no need to fight. Would-be champ with podium." Maybe he just gave up the position intentionally there in the lead. He's probably comfortable just running in second. The gap's out to 1.5 seconds now.
And asking a commentator to do math, I'm not sure of the drop weeks, but I can tell you that JDS, without Juho Raina here, let's see where John Olsen's all the way down in 10th, so JDS is clearly outscoring John Olsen. I think that he's right. He should become the F1 points champion at the end of this one with a podium. And quite honestly, I don't blame him for not fighting or not, but I will say this has been a rise of JDS over the last few seasons. He was in the F2 Points Championship. He won that F2 Points Championship. He graduated into running into the top 5 here in the big split. Then all of a sudden he was starting to grab podiums, and you heard me talk about him earlier. He is now a regular for those race wins. So yeah, he might not be fighting for the win today, but he has his eyes on that big championship.
Yeah, and I suppose there's some who would say that it's a bit anticlimactic for JDS to give up on fighting for the win here, as Roper will get past Rodriguez finally. Looks like a bit of a problem there for Rodriguez on the exit of turn 2, and that will be a move done for the number 21. It looked like a pretty easy move in the end. That fight will continue on for a while, but yeah, back to my point. Yeah, you might say, oh yeah, that's lame. You know, JDS doesn't want to fight Journo for the win here, but I think you got to put yourself in his mind. He's thinking about the championship, as you said. He's thinking about the points, and if it means giving up on a fight for victory while making sure he can focus on getting the points he needs, I don't blame him at all.
We're also getting caught up in...
That's JDS! Oh, no! We were just talking about him! We were just talking about him trying to get the consistent finish, and he's gone and bottled it out of turn 1!
Oh, my goodness. Our second place car, our pole sitter, I mean, if that's not a commentator's curse, I mean, we were trying to prop him up over here, and hopefully he doesn't have much damage. He nosed it in. I can tell you exactly what happened, folks, is that he went into turn number 1. It looked great. However, he snagged the very, very last bit of apex curve on driver's right. It bottomed out the car. He spun around and made impact with the driver's left wall with the front left corner of the car. But Reese, I think he got away with it because I don't see any damage on this thing, but man, he had it all wrapped up.
Yeah, he did. I mean, you might say commentator's curse, yeah, but Jack David Spickett said in the text chat that he wanted to back off, so if anything, I think he cursed himself.
And, you know, Michael DeTurka is watching. He's providing some behind the scenes as well. That he's agreeing with your Reese, is that he says if you change, if you back off, oh my goodness, and I'm watching on board, he almost just crashed again right now. He's just, you change it, what your rhythm is, all of a sudden you make mistakes. So I agree with you. Sometimes it's better to push it 10/10 because that's what you're used to doing. If you change what you're used to doing, all of a sudden you can find yourself in no man's land.
Well, I recall that story about Ayrton Senna at Monaco. I think it was in 1988. You know, he was pushing hard. He was in the zone, and then he was told to back off by McLaren. And when he did, he crashed. You know, sometimes when you're racing up the front, best thing to do is get in the zone and push as hard as you can, because that's when your concentration is at its highest.
Once again, I'm going to get a little nerdy because my mom, she is a math teacher, a school teacher. And so the easiest way to think about it is a corner is just a math equation. 1 + 1, the corner entry plus the corner exit equals your corner, right? However, when you ask the driver to do something different, it's not 1 + 1 anymore. And you think, okay, well, that's easy, but it's just a different variable. It makes the driver have to focus on something else. And when you're focusing on something else, you're not focused on your brake marker, you're not focused on your apex, you're not focused on your exit or your steering inputs, your throttle inputs. And sometimes drivers, they can say, sure, pile everything on. I can manage everything myself in my head and on my shoulders. But some drivers, they get a little bit distracted, and it can be just a learning process.
Yeah, indeed it can. Well, I think JDS is going to have to wait at least one more week to get himself the points he needs to claim the championship from here. But regardless, still got a few more laps of this race to run. 8 laps to be exact, as Jenna Fritzsche is about to make his way across the line and continues to set incredibly fast laps. 106.2 at the front. He is in control of this race. And as we ride on board with JDS, the track looks clear ahead of him, but not too far ahead is Seamus Power and Andrew Petty. His car coming out of the pits next to him there. And the battle for third from before is now a battle for second. Pepe Fuentes could be looking at a runner-up position if he can get Pauli Partanen back.
Not only that, but I think that ever since Pauli got up there, it's actually kind of slowed everything down maybe a little bit, because you see there's a third car. JB Masuda has now joined the party, and let me tell you, he is actually the fastest car on the racetrack right now, a 106.1. That was the last lap time from that black number 8. Compare that to Pepe Fuentes, a 106.7, Pauli Partanen, a 106.6. So we might be looking at this trio right here, and the fastest car of the 3 is actually the one, the caboose on the end.
Yeah, JB's really turned up the pace in the last few laps, hasn't he? 7 laps to go now, and once again, JB is the fastest car in the top 4. Fastest car on track as well. Took a full 3/10 out of Fuentes, 4/10 out of Partanen, even running faster than Gernot Fritzsche in the lead. So he's going to be right in the midst of this battle now for the podium places. Looking forward to these final laps.
Now, me as a driver, I am obsessed with car setup, vehicle dynamics, as Fuentes thought about a little bit of a sneaky move down there into Moss Corner, backed out of it at the last second, but definitely showed kind of like a little bit of a half a nose and just right back in the slipstream of Partanen right now. But yeah, I was just going to get maybe just a little bit nerdy with the slipstreams and the downforce levels and the car setups and everything, because you can have a really fast qualifying car, you can have a really fast car in the first half of the race, but you got to remember, oh, here's a huge move from Fuentes on the last corner. I know we didn't see it on screen, but going into turn number 10, the number 5 car threw it up the inside of Pauli Partonen, backed out at the very last second, but I think it just shows the urgency of Fuentes. He sees Masada right behind. He says, I need to go. I need to get around Pauli Partonen for second.
There's good racing going on all through the top 6. This three-way battle, and then Seamus Power and Andrew Petty. Oh no, I've just seen a big incident for John Olsen, Yene Zoric. They are both out of the race. They were running solidly in the midfield. I don't know what's happened to them, but it seems like they both crashed as this fight is continuing to close up between Partonen, Fuentes, and Masada. Double draft for JB. Can he get it done?
On the Mario Andretti straightaway, I think the benefit is that Pauli's got such a low downforce car. He knows how to make a fast race car. Remember me saying that he's won so many races between him and his buddy Yuka. They just know how to do it, and it's going to be incredibly difficult to pass Pauli because I guarantee you he's got the lowest downforce setup out of any car that we're seeing on the racetrack right now. So, with that information known, you saw Pepe Fuentes throw it up the inside of turn 10, an unorthodox place, right? We saw him show the nose into Moss Corner down there, turn number 5, another unorthodox place. Look at him close the gap to the gearbox there in turn number 3. So I think if Fuentes is going to make a move, it's not going to come at the end of the straightaway.
No, he's going to be waiting for an opportunity that Partonen might not expect. They close up again through Moss Corner for the run down the straight. I just went back and checked the incident between Olsen and Zoric, and it was a simple coming together. Olsen trying to get through turn 8, Zoric on the inside. They just banged wheels and came together again, and they ended up both going airborne and out of the race. Big shame for the both of them. They will get no result tonight. But here comes Fuentes once again into turn 10. Will he try the same thing here? No, not quite. But turn 10 is a place where you can see moves. If you keep the power flat through the second last corner and get your trajectory to the inside of turn 10, you can potentially throw a dive.
And let me tell you, there has been many a race that has ended in tears from lots of competitors through turn number 10, exactly what Reese was talking about. But I'm seeing Fuentes start to search around the racetrack. I think that he understands it's not going to come down at the end of the straightaway, so he's just starting to show a little bit different stuff to Partonen here. Keep an eye on Masada. The last time down this straightaway, I actually thought that he had the fastest top-end speed, and that makes sense because he's the third car in the draft train, but if he's got a lower wing level than Fuentes, that black and blue car here in the middle, watch out because he can be sneaky around this place. So let's watch the commitment level through 8 and 9 and through turn number 10, which is the final right-hander. Does Fuentes show the hand again? No, he's staying right back in line. If you ask me in terms of showing your cards, I actually think that he kind of flashed it maybe a little bit early because you only want to show that on the last lap. I do feel like he's fastest through this section right here, 1, 2, and going into 3. So maybe he's trying to set up a move down on this side of the racetrack versus the other side of the racetrack, but it's going to have to come from a very, very far way back or just surprise Partonen.
Yeah, the other perspective you could take is that maybe he was trying at turn 10 just to see if it could work later on, and maybe he decided it wasn't worth it. That's another option for Pepe Fuentes. But one thing that I have been noticing is every time they've gone through Moss, Pauli Partonen has gotten a slightly better run off the corner, and I was listening to the cars on the last lap. The reason that's happening is Partonen is taking the second part of Moss in a lower gear. He's in first, I think, while Pepe is in second gear. So it's a little bit more of a bog down off the exit for Pepe, but it's a more consistent run out of the corner. Maybe he's looking after his rear tires a bit more. He's all over the back of him in turn 1 now.
2 laps to go, and Fuentes is literally underneath the rear wing, and Masada almost got into the back up over the crest of turn number 2. They just kind of tripped over themselves there, so now just take a breath, calm down, relax, reset, and he's actually got a really, really nice run towards Partonen right here. We've seen him show the nose going into the second part of Moss Corner. He's trying to set it up. There he goes down the inside. He's all the way up alongside. It's going to be a drag race contact between the two. Watch out for Masada. He's going to try to split the middle, but I think the advantage is going to go to Partonen. Remember, we've talked about the lower downforce. Masada is trying to find a way through the interstate traffic jam. Is it going to be Fuentes on the inside with the commitment? Partonen scoots ahead with the downforce level. Does Fuentes once again throw it in a turn 10? He's looking for the move. They're all looking for it. Almost 3 wide and another drag race to start the final lap, Reese.
What an exciting race this has been. I'm loving this battle. And they're in the same order they were in at the start of last lap. If you looked at that, you'd think, hey, nothing happened. But plenty happened over the course of those last couple of corners. That was amazing. But now I think that Partonen is going to be wise here. But Fuentes has run wide in turn 3. And that's going to allow Masada through.
Masada up into third place and on the podium. Don't worry about our leader. He's on the back straightaway. Fuentes! Oh, thankfully he does not collect the other 2 cars. He keeps it on the racetrack. I think he's going to lose it to Seamus Power. But it's Partonen down the straightaway. I think he's comfortable over Masada. He's got a nice enough gap. It's not going to be the slipstream that's going to be overtaken. Gernot Frisha rounds turn number 9. He sees the final corner. Barney waves the checkered flag. A nice and easy win for Mr. Frisha out front.
A commanding victory for Zerno in the number 2. And Pauli, man, he absorbed the pressure like a sponge, didn't he? A well-deserved second place from that one. Pepe is going to come home 4th ahead of Power and Petty. And that's going to leave Jack David Spickett maybe feeling a little bit sheepish there, coming home in a lonely 7th.
Oh my goodness. Let me catch my breath over here as we watch the rest of the cars come across and kind of finish today's race. I was going to say the only maybe benefit that JDS can look at is, remember, we had caught that incident with John Olsen as well as Yerne, and John Olsen is sitting P3 in that F1 points championship, so that was the closest competitor JDS had today on track. So JDS will outscore everybody. Even though it wasn't the podium finish to clinch the championship, I still think it was a decent points day. So we've got our official results as everybody is going to be wrapping up and taking that checkered flag out there. We mentioned Gernot Frisha. He's one of the most successful, I believe the most successful here in the 79s. It's always great to see him get another win. It's been a little while and he doesn't do as much practice anymore, but he's starting to find the top step a little bit more than what he's done in the couple years past. Pauli Partonen, like you heard Reese say, absorbed all of the pressure, was able to fend off multiple cars for a second place finish. JB Masada used the racecraft to sneak underneath Pepe Fuentes, steal away that podium finish on the last lap. And then we see Pepe finish there in 4th. Seamus Power with a fantastic run, up 3 positions to finish with the top 5. Andrew Petty in 6th. JDS, a story of what if today, will finish in 7th, with Victor Rodriguez hanging on to that consistency into 8th. Held off AJ Roper that entire race. AJ finishes 9th. And the Big Cat, we didn't talk about the Big Cat very much, but he has a top 10 today.
Yeah, good stuff from Barry West. In 11th place, exactly where he started, was Jean-Francois Boscus, but he was involved in a very tight battle indeed with Barry. Rolling Wallbank going to come home in 12th. That's 3 positions gained. It's 5 positions gained for Jose Conde, with Julian Jones coming home in 14th place. Most positions gained in the field at 8. Mickey Friesen is the last driver to finish on the lead lap, with Dave Reutenbeek finishing in 16th. Then, unfortunately, we get into retirement territory. Daniel Repetto, just a few minutes from the end there, unfortunately not coming home in a position he'd be happy with. Zorich and Olsen, they had a massive crash at turn 8, both retiring at the same time. Stottlemyre and Fetchner, as well as Hasada, weren't even able to make it past the first few laps, and Jason Clapper, with technical issues at the start of the race, was not able to even take to the grid.
Well, CTMP, Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, whatever you want to call it, I think it is one of the more underrated racetracks. And sure, we saw Gernot kind of run away to an 8-second win, but the racing throughout the field was just absolutely phenomenal. I couldn't believe what ended up being the fight for second place there. We've covered a lot of the 49s, the 79s, the Camel, the IMSA Vintage, whatever you want to call it. And I got to put this race finish, at least the last half of the race, that battle for second and third, way up there inside the top 5.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love historic racing. I think it's a really underrated aspect of online racing, and I think this race just showed why we love it so much. Fantastic fighting around a classic circuit in classic cars, keeping the speed and the pressure up, and just some really brave driving all throughout that race.
Looks like we finally have a couple of the drivers joining us here in the commentary booth. We'll go ahead and get our race winner, Gernot Frische, in here to join us here in just a moment. Make sure that he's got everything ready. So, Mr. Frische, congratulations. You found the top step of the podium again.
Hi, Joey. I don't know how. Otherwise, I would do it more often.
Well, so we talked about the downforce levels and the setups quite a bit in today's race, and we felt that the difference between you and Jack was pretty drastic. Is that what you saw inside the car as well?
Yeah, for sure. I also saw it in the race before. Jack was running quite a bit of downforce. I was going as low as possible. Not sure what was the better strategy. I think for the race, maybe it was good to have some speed on the tops on the straights. But Jack was really quick overall, and especially in the corners, so it was an interesting race.
A little bit of a technical question for you. This is a bumpy track, right? In Moss Corner, you got to stay off of the curbs down there. You got some really tall curbs. Is there any danger areas with this car with compression and bottoming out, or is it pretty good to drive around here?
Right now it's pretty good. It used to be a pain in the past because we had a huge bump going down to Moss, and the car was always bottoming out and taking damage as well. So this bump seems to have gone, and things have gotten better, in my opinion.
Well, I love seeing you up front, and what's better than seeing you on the podium is you standing on the top collecting another win. Congrats, man. Is there anybody you want to say hi to?
Yeah, I have to congratulate Jack. I'm not sure what that result means for his championship ambitions. Otherwise, he'll do it next week, I think so. And also, congrats to Pauli and to JB for the podium positions. And thanks to you guys, as always. Bye-bye.
That was Gernot Frische, one of the most successful and always one of the most classy racers out there. Looks like we also have Pauli Partonen, our P2 finisher, standing by with Reese.
Yeah, indeed we do. Pauli with us now. Congratulations on second place there, mate. Certainly a tight battle with JB and Pepe all the way through the second half of that race.
Yeah, I think I had one of the hardest races ever. I told on last week in interview that Mosport is my biggest weakness, and it still is. But I had so much fun. This race was so good. I think I started at P6 and I was able to take myself to P2 in the end, and a lot of overtaking, a lot of battles. So that was super fun. I liked it.
Yeah, it was a very tough track to overtake on for sure, but it seemed like it was a battle between those who had the downforce and those who didn't. What was your setup philosophy going into this round?
Well, I didn't really practice this week or didn't really do any setup work, so I just went with the old Spa setup and just hoped it will work good. And it seems like I had the lowest downforce on the grid. I think I had lower downforce than Gernot had, so that was a bit scary on the corners. But yeah, I'm happy with the setup. I think it worked very well.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we go to the polar opposite kind of track next week for Laguna Seca. Will we be expecting you to show up there? And what are your thoughts on that place in the 79?
I think I have raced once there, and I think the race was good. I like the track, and we'll see if I will be there. I'm not really interested to drive too much this car and just trying to have some fun. I usually end up practicing too much and racing too hard, so I have tried to take it more calmly, so let's see.
Very easy to do indeed. Regardless, congratulations on finishing runner-up here this week, Pauli, and yeah, have a good one.
And thank you, and nice race, Joe. That's very good. Thank you.
Yeah, it was indeed a great race from Gernot Fritzsche. Well, it looks like we're going to have Barry West joining us now for our final interview here, Joey. Very consistent finish.
Yeah, standing by with the big cat, Barry West, with a good top 10. How was it today from your point of view?
Meow. I got the cream.
Hey, hang on. No. That is not the sound a big cat makes, Barry.
Yeah, I'll reserve that for a podium. Yeah, it was a good race apart from one small mistake when I was in front of John and lost it at Moss and lost 3 places. But it's, yeah, I'm really comfortable in this track. And AJ got me at the start. He just got a wheel inside on Quebec corner. And then I couldn't catch him then because I knew he had more less downforce than I did. So, yeah, but I was just pleased to get Jean-Francois at the end. You know, we seemed to be struggling, and don't know what happened to John, but yeah, I enjoyed that. It was a good race.
So let's talk about the tracks a little bit, because where we go to next week, Laguna Seca, totally different from Villeneuve that we just raced and Mosport this week. A much slower racetrack, high downforce. What's your comfortable level going into that? Are you strong, or are you just kind of going to have to practice a little bit more?
It's a so-so track for me. I'm waiting for Suzuka because that's one of the best tracks.
Well,
just seems to be all the old school tracks seem to be the better ones. I don't know what it is. Watkins, Suzuka, Mosport, Juan, Silverstone. Yeah, it's. But yeah, Laguna. If you're strong in turn 1, you can get a lot of places there, but it's just really risky and there's lots of accidents there. So yeah, it just depends how hot it is as well, I suppose.
Well, Barry, I've cracked the code on the tracks that you like. You like fast racetracks, and most of those racetracks that you also labeled off are narrow racetracks. So you like a fast racetrack with lots of commitment, and I'm not surprised. That's exactly what these 79s do best. So I just want to say thank you for coming out and racing with us. And is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
No, all the other people we race with. It makes this series what it is. Everybody seems to enjoy it so much. It's a brilliant series. Thanks, Joe.
Yep, no, I always love watching you out there. Barry West, the big cat, coming home with a top 10 finish today. We'll have to keep an eye on him through the remaining couple of races. And that's going to do it for us here. Thanks to the team today. That includes Reese, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race for the 79s, you heard us talking about it, is going to be at Laguna Seca 1 week from today at the same time, Sunday, August 25th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And be sure to check out all of the other broadcasts listed here on GSRC. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
Yeah.